It is absolutely amazing to be in this wonderful gathering, and to be invited to introduce our first keynote speaker is a real honor. I was told about Dr. Scott Wright by Umid, and I went immediately to YouTube to check him out, and I found that the person who introduced him said exactly what the Umid team said and exactly what I'm going to say. You've got to hear this guy. He has been brought from all over the world to various conferences because his message is so important for us. Dr. Scott Wright is the chief of the Department of Medicine at Johns Hopkins University Medical School and the director of the Miller-Coulson Academy of Clinical Excellence at Hopkins. He is a prodigious reader with a wide and eclectic taste, and he's passionate about mentoring young professionals. The talk that I listened to on YouTube was like a roadmap for becoming an evolved, happy, fulfilled person. As the mother of a young woman with cerebral palsy, I find his journey absolutely incredible and inspiring, knowing that he shares the same experience that she does. Get out your pens and papers. You're going to want to take notes. Please welcome Dr. Scott Wright.
Thank you, Joe and Rupa. Good morning, everyone. It's a wonderful honor to present at the Congress, and I'm really delighted to be in India. Normally, when I present at conferences, I talk about my research and the programs that I lead. But this talk will be different. I'm going to talk about my cerebral palsy and how it has influenced my leadership in medicine. So I don't normally talk about myself and what I've been through, but I'm going to do that today amongst friends. And in deciding what to talk and how to share my story a little bit, I recognize the fact that everyone in this room is a leader. And so I'm hoping to share my story in a way that makes you reflect on your own leadership and how you can evolve and mature as a leader as well. So I hope that after hearing this talk, I hope that you will begin to reflect upon how your life and your experiences have an impact on your leadership. And I hope that in this session, I hope to expose you to pearls from a few wonderful books and some poetry as well. So away we go. I thought that I'd start off by telling you a little bit about me for a couple of minutes. So I was born full term in the 1960s in Montreal, Canada, and apparently there was stress at the time of birth, and I came out, they didn't do a C-section, came out with the umbilical cord around my neck 3 times, my head was blue, I was very limp, low Apgars. I perked up, and then I was raised in a family in Canada that didn't have much knowledge of medicine, and I was slow to develop, so I didn't walk, I wasn't talking, and eventually my parents took me to doctors. At around 5 years old, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Well, after the diagnosis, I started seeing physical therapists, occupational therapists, and doctors from an early age. And with that, I think I saw the impact that healthcare professionals can have on people, and I decided I wanted to pursue a healthcare career. When I became a medical student and a resident, it was somewhat challenging at times being a doctor with an overt physical disability. There were some patients who, before I really had my script down and was able to describe how I was and how I would do, there were some concerns, but I got past that. And then, over time, the leadership opportunities began to present themselves at my institution where I'm at now. I was at McGill, I went to Hopkins for fellowship, and when leadership roles started to come my way, I didn't know if I should take them. I thought maybe someone else should take them. I didn't think I was qualified or well trained, but I thought that I needed to do more, and I'm going to tell you about that. I'll also say about me, I have a wonderful family. I have 3 children. My wife is wonderful too. She's a physician. And growing up, I was lucky, I had a supportive, loving family that helped me grow and develop. So as Joe said, I head up the Department of Medicine at Hopkins. We have, in the last 10 years, an Academy of Clinical Excellence. So Johns Hopkins is a very formidable hospital in America, and I, a doctor with CP, I'm the face for clinical excellence, pushing us to be excellent. So in the Academy, we have doctors from every specialty who are in the Academy focused on collaborating to improve the care that we deliver to our patients. I direct one of our fellowships. I head up a program called Merit that works to bring more African American high school students and college students into medicine. I head up the palliative care program, so we do a lot of end-of-life care. And then I'm the research mentor for the hospitalist group that does most of the quality improvement and safety research. So I do a lot of meeting with people and mentoring. And I give you that background. So now I'm going to talk about some influences that CP's had on me that I think affect the leader that I've grown into. And I think I'll start by saying we can't be someone who we're not. So who I am, warts and all, influences how I lead. And I think that to be an effective leader, I think all of us need to really understand who we are and take a look in the mirror. I think it's important for you to know your strengths, your weaknesses, your temperamental factors, and even your innate personality traits as to how you can relate, motivate, guide others. Okay, so I'm going to go through 8 influences that I think have shaped me, where CP has affected me, that's affected how I lead. So 1, my CP has taught me to be realistic. Some people look in the mirror and they see, like a funhouse mirror, they see something they're not. My CP has taught me that there are things that I can't do. Growing up in Canada, all my friends wanted to be professional hockey players. I knew I couldn't skate. I knew I couldn't be a professional hockey player. And I think that my CP made me be really quite aware of what I could and couldn't do and be realistic. And I think that's important. So along the way, I've had many self-assessments, and I know me. So how many people know their Myers-Briggs personality inventory? So a number of hands. So I think I know mine. I know my DISC behavioral profile. I know my Cantor behavioral propensities. And I think knowing that and how I interact with others and has been invaluable. I get every once in a while through different courses, I get these 360-degree evaluations that are done online where my bosses, my peers, my subordinates fill out questions about me, and I learn things. And sometimes there's things that's not surprising, like good news and bad news, but often there's good news and bad news that are surprising. And when you see bad news that's surprising, you can work on those things. So as I said, looking in an accurate mirror, I understand my strengths, I understand my limitations, and I regularly try and get feedback from the people who I'm collaborating with so I can improve and get better. So I have governing values that I put together about 20 years ago now, and once a year I sit down for a half day and I go over them and I shift them around, and my governing values guide the decisions that I make in my life. And I'll just go, I have 20 of them. Number 4, I let the people I know love, I let the people I love know about my actions and my words. I'm a friend who others can count on anytime, anywhere. I'm a role model. I'm honest and loyal. I have integrity. I am proud of my accomplishments but not content. I want to do a lot more. I encourage justice. I don't accept any discrimination. I'm innovative, I'm creative, I'm not judgmental. I dream big and I swing for the fence. And I look for opportunities to praise others publicly. and never publicly do I criticize or say anything that might embarrass anyone. So I share with you my governing values in that I took time years ago to create them as principles of how I live my life professionally and personally. And I think that if you have governing values, great. If you don't, you might want to embark on a process to think about them because they really help me in living my life. So the impact of this realism on my leadership, I seek out lots of feedback and I give lots of feedback. So to make sure that me and the people that I'm working with are looking into accurate mirrors and know how they're doing. Second, I encourage those in my team to collect data and review it with me. We do it periodically, depending on the project, a research project or a new clinical project. And I push others to develop individualized learning plans. So formally, when I have an annual review with every faculty member in our group and the leaders of projects, I say, how are you going to be better next year than you were this year? And we develop a learning plan for things they're going to do in the next 6 months or year to improve. So I think thinking about that is important. Okay, influence 2. My CP, I think, has contributed to me being an introvert. So I think I would have been an introvert anyways, but my CP has made me into a big introvert. And it's hard for me to stand up here and talk to a room full of people, but I do it. So I said, I'm an INTJ, that's my Myers-Briggs, but I'm a big I. You get scored between, let's say, I and E, and I'm a big I. And I think one of the and I know that there are many people with CP and other disabilities who are extroverts, but I'm not. I've always felt, because of my speech and movement, a little bit awkward. My movement, my speech, and even socially, it's a little bit hard to sometimes begin speaking with people. And I remember as a child, lots of people would come up to me and ask, why do you run like that? Why do you walk like that? Why do you talk like that? Others would point and whisper. And I was embarrassed up until a certain point in my life with being noticeably different than other people. And because of that, I became somewhat self-conscious. So I think all those things have contributed to me being a real introvert. And as I said, I've worked on this, and as a leader and going to certain things, I have to socialize well, but I'm not a natural. There's some people who are natural at socializing. I'm not, and it's something that I work on. So I'm going to tell you about a few books that have really helped me grow and develop as a leader. This is one. It's a book called Quiet, written by Susan Cain, and it talks about the powers of introverts in a world of people who can't stop talking. And really what the book taught me is how to use my introversion as a strength. So some of the pearls from the book that have really been helpful to me, when I'm in a big group, other chiefs, surgeons, and other people around, I am selective in what I say. But then when I do talk, people stop and listen. And I'm thoughtful and deliberate in my speech and in my presence and how I speak and when I speak. Also, when I'm running a meeting, I'm cognizant to purposely hear from everyone, because I know the person that hasn't said anything usually has the best idea. So I will reserve time and say, is there anyone who hasn't spoke who would like to share an idea? Or sometimes I will call out some people who I know are particularly brilliant and say, hey, we haven't heard from you, what do you think? We'd love to hear what you have to say. And I think the thing the book taught me is that introverts are amazingly good at connecting one-on-one. So a lot of what I do is mentoring other people and managing people. And when I'm one-on-one in my office with somebody or in their office, that's when I'm really good. So you put me in a big group, and I'm not the best, but one-on-one, I think introverts do really well. So I think it also helped me because on all the teams that I'm on and all the groups, people know that I'm not looking to steal the spotlight. I want other people to get the credit. Also, when a disaster hits, my quiet energy helps. So introverts, if you're not an introvert, introverts are like peace, quiet, solitude. Introverts like reading. So again, I'm generalizing a little bit, allow me. But reading has a huge impact on my development as a leader and mentoring. So when I have annual meetings with different leaders and faculty, I often will say, you need to read this book. Go read the book, come back and meet with me and talk. And I think that I've gone to leadership weeks and conferences at different institutions, but I've learned more from reading books, discussing the key points with others. I'm going to share some of them with you today. Okay, influence number 3. CP has made me into a real, genuine giver. I've been the beneficiary of tremendous generosity. So first early on from physical therapists, occupational therapists, nurses, and from doctors. And then even in my career in medicine, attendings and mentors, they've been wonderful people who have guided me, taught me, helped me grow, been tremendous. And I feel a real need to reciprocate and give back wherever and whenever I can, because I've received so much. In putting together this talk, or another talk too, I looked at of all the people that helped me as a young boy with CP, Carol Morency was the physical therapist who I'd meet with weekly and then monthly, who made me believe that I could have a productive, meaningful, semi-normal life. And so I looked her up just to honor her. She passed away in 2009. But she was an amazing giver for me, to me personally, to my parents, and to many others who had disabilities in Montreal. She was an amazing giver. So this is a book that also I read to think about how to be a more effective giver. It's called Give and Take. Adam Grant is a fantastic teacher at the Wharton School of Business in Pennsylvania. And he really teaches in this book that in life you're going to come across people who are takers. Takers just looking to get stuff for themselves and get ahead. They're matchers who say, okay, I'll give you this, but you got to give me that. And then they're givers. And they're givers who are really just focused on giving. And I think in the book they teach you that in the short run, takers might get ahead, and takers might get a little bit more today. But in the long run, givers are more fulfilled, are more happy. And I think all of you in this room, the work that you do, are likely tremendous givers. The other book about being a giving leader is this book by Robert Greenleaf called Servant Leadership. And the premise of this book and from Give and Take are, both of them remind us that, the primary goal of a leader is to serve others and to empower them to grow. So that's really what I try and do in my leadership roles. And I've come to understand there are many different ways to help people. You've got to figure out how you can help people, how you can give to them and grow. Sometimes you just got to be a role model and just act the part and they'll follow you. Sometimes you have to go and coach people and watch them and give them feedback and say, you're not doing this right. Other times you need to mentor or sponsor. And we can get into that a bit later in the Q&A if you like. And I think that as a giver, you develop close relationships with your teams. And by doing that, you really learn about what people need and what they want. I saw a bunch of beautiful teams working together here at Mead and elsewhere. And I think in my group at Hopkins, nobody leaves. So I have two faculty who are in their late 70s. They won't retire. We have zero turnover. We just keep growing. And I think not only me, but our group has created a giving culture where people are just working hard together for our patients, trying to do good. So influence number 4. My CP has given me a bit of a chip on my shoulder. And I've had a drive to succeed, A lot of people said, hey, don't know if you could do this, don't know if you could do that. And because of that, it's really pushed me to prove people wrong and try and take on more and do more. And perhaps I'd be different if I didn't have CP. So I said, I always felt the need to prove myself. And, I try and get people working with me to feel the same way, to give full effort, full energy, and to try and do something amazing and special, whether it's a new educational program for a med student or resident, or a new clinical offering, or some research. I want people to try and do something better than anyone else in the world is doing. And the book that taught me a lot about this is called Outliers. So Malcolm Gladwell is a really innovative thinker and writes about things. And he talks about how deliberate practice, that to become a master at anything, whether it's tennis or violin or being a clinician, you got to put in 10,000 hours. And then not only that, but you need to think about how you're doing. You need to look in an accurate mirror. And you need to have somebody who watches you and tells you how to do even better. And in the book, Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell talks about how you got to put in the hard work, you got to have the drive, and then if everything aligns, maybe you'll get lucky and you'll be an outlier. So I think, and this is Outliers schematically, so everyone's clustered here, but some groups, some people are that much better due to certain circumstances. And I think the impact of striving for excellence, what impact that's had on me as a leader is that I set very high expectations for myself and for those around me, my colleagues. I'm tough on problems, so when things aren't working in our practice or in our education programs, we get together and we say, hey, how can we fix this? We need to try and continually improve and get towards going from good to great. And I send my people to centers of excellence to learn and bring back new insights. So there are always people elsewhere who are doing amazing things. And often I'll send my head nurse or one of my lead clinicians to see another place and say, go there, spend 2 days, come back and tell us how we could emulate them and do even better. Okay, influence 5. My CP has taught me to accept and embrace failures. So I told you about some initial failures. I was slow to walk, slow to talk. Some things were very hard for me to do. Walking into a room as a medical student, as a doctor at times were difficult. And there were some failures there. And then public speaking. So I've given some horrible talks, and I've learned and gotten feedback to try and do a little better. So this is a book by Adam Grant, who wrote Give and Take, and Sheryl Sandberg, who's a inspirational leader woman who wrote Lean In and who works at Facebook. They wrote this book that I recently read a couple of weeks ago called Option B, talking about how we all experience failures and struggles in our lives. And a few takeaway messages are, if you experience misfortune or a struggle, talk about it. Don't keep it bottled up inside. Share it with others, and they'll help you grow. If you know that somebody else has suffered, talk to them about it. Ask questions, say, how are you doing? And then be kind to yourself. Notice what you're doing well, not just mistakes. So we can all get down on ourselves for when things aren't going well. Option B reminds us to look for what's going well. Creativity Inc. is another book along these lines that spent a big part of the book around failure. So Ed Catmull is someone we know at Hopkins, and he runs Pixar. So he wrote a book. This book is an amazing book, and it talks about how the culture at Pixar spawns amazing creativity. And one of the biggest things is they are fearless. They say, let's fail, and then let's fix it. And really amazing stories about how the movies that your kids love, that we love, often were going in the tank and failing, and it took those failures to make them great. And this is the first, I'm going to share 3 little poems. This is the first one. So it talks about how we learn more from failure. It goes like this. I walked a mile with pleasure. She chatted all the way, but left me none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and never a word said she, but oh, the things I learned from her when sorrow walked with me. So when things go bad, we learn a lot more than when things are cruising. So the impact of my leadership, because of my own failures, personally and professionally, I'm encouraging in the face of failure. I say, great. It's great that we failed. Now let's figure it out. Failures are thoughtfully reviewed by a team of us so that we can all learn from the failure and what happened, and I become patient. So I know that things take time, and I understand that